I've been in the outdoor structures business for long enough to see just about every way a backyard project can go sideways. Some of these are expensive, some of these are dangerous. A few of them are painful to look at. I'm gonna walk through 7 of the worst outdoor living mistakes I've seen, and more importantly, how to avoid making them yourself. If you're planning any kind of backyard project this year, you should watch this first. So this first one is the one that probably is the most common expensive mistake in outdoor living. It happens all the time. Someone goes all in on an outdoor kitchen. Custom built grill island, granite countertops, built-in refrigerator, a sink, the whole setup. $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $40,000. Beautiful, it's great. The problem, there's nothing over it. In Indiana, from June through August, the afternoon sun is brutal. And if you're standing over a grill that's already pushing 500 degrees, you've got direct sunlight on top of that. It's miserable, and the granite gets really hot to touch. The refrigerator's working overtime to stay cold in direct UV, and you've got food that's prepping on the counter still sitting in the full sun. So now you need to retrofit a shade structure over an outdoor kitchen that wasn't designed for one. And here's the issue. You've already poured your slab, you've already built the island, you've already set everything, including the countertops. The posts can't go anywhere without interfering with that layout, or it's an awkward fit or a complete re-pour on the part of the patio. A project that should have cost you $20,000 is now costing you $30,000 because you did them in the wrong order. The fix though is simple. Plan the shade structure first, or at minimum plan it at the same time as the kitchen. Know where the posts are gonna be before you pour. Know where the electrical is running before you get concrete that goes down. If you're getting a permit, you definitely need to plan it or build it in at the same time. Regardless of what you're doing, either do it all at once or don't do it at all, because especially if you're pulling a permit, you need to have those footers for our structure at the same time as you're doing the permit for the patio and the entire outdoor kitchen. So you gotta do it all at once, unfortunately. Otherwise, you're gonna have a really hard time later on because you try to save money and not doing the outdoor coverage. So that's the first one. That's the biggest one that I see all the time. This next one, you've probably seen them online. $600, free shipping, bolts together in an afternoon, and 4 thin posts, some cross beams, and a fabric canopy on top. Looks great in product photos, but the problem is that a lot of times that was done on a calm day. What happens more than once, and I see this all the time, is a homeowner assembles their paver patio, uses the included surface mounted brackets, attaches it to the pavers, maybe sandbags it as well with some planter boxes, but a real storm comes through here in the Midwest, and that whole thing is gonna be lifting up and moving off your patio, and it's gonna pull some pavers with it. If you ever hear anyone say, you can bolt our structure to your pavers, know right now that that is not true. There is no paver in the world heavy enough to hold a full pergola down on the patio and deal with lateral wind load at the same time. It doesn't exist. So this is why I see comments all the time, or people that call in to us and say, I built one, it blew away, or it blew down, or it damaged my table because it fell over. All that stuff can exist. If you're on a budget though, make sure you at least set these posts. Even if you buy a cheaper one, at least set them in concrete. At least bolt them down with some serious hardware, so that then the real question is whether or not the structure itself can take the wind from a lateral wind load standpoint. But never bolt it to pavers. And if you're gonna buy the less expensive pergola, just know right now you really need to make sure how you attach it down to the ground. This next one braced my heart because it's usually someone who's genuinely invested in a beautiful structure. They spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on a custom cedar pergola, $12,000, $15,000 sometimes. It's rich color, it's gorgeous, smells amazing. Year 2, the color starts to fade. And that's just UV doing its thing. No big deal. It's cosmetic, but the homeowner's busy. They'll get to staining it in a month, in a week, in whatever. Year 3, the wood, like original color's gone. Small cracks are starting to appear. The end cuts are starting to get really dingy near the hardware. By year 4, those cracks have started to open up. Water's getting in and freezing in the winter, expanding, splitting the wood even further. And now carpenter bees have found all the cracks. They're boring these 1/2-inch holes through the rafters. They're laying eggs inside, and you can see piles of sawdust on the patio underneath. By year 5, 6, or 7, that several $1,000 pergola doesn't just need a coat of stain, it needs structural repairs. Posts that have been sitting in moisture, or you've got leaks that have been pooling all together. Rafters are splitting, bees have honeycombed into several of the beams. At this point, it's not just restoring, you're tearing it out and you're starting over. Now, all of that could have been avoidable with a stain and seal every 2 to 3 years. Now, I say every year, but that's just my opinion. If you're not up for it, just be honest with yourself before you buy a wood pergola. Wood is just not the right material for you. There's no shame in that. Just pick something that matches the amount of maintenance you're actually willing to do. Personally, while I could stain a pergola, I don't have time for that. So that's why I love products like ours, just to plug ours real quick, because it's rust proof and you never need to stain it. It's a no maintenance sort of system, which is why I have one of our own products on my house. But even if I didn't buy ours, an aluminum pergola requires no maintenance, and that's why I recommend to people to buy it. This next one happens more than I care to count. This is where you buy a patio cover that's pretty expensive, but you cause a $15,000 foundation problem. Now, every patio needs to slope away from the house. It's a standard, 1/4 inch drop per linear foot. So a 12-foot patio should lower about 3 inches from edge to edge, where it meets the house all the way out to the outside. 3 inches. Now, when that slope is wrong, either the slab was poured flat or worse, it was pitched slightly back towards the foundation. Every rain sends all that water back to your house. It doesn't cause a problem in the first year or the 10th time, but after a year or 2 or 5 years, water finds its way into the cracks, into the blocks, into the joints. And so what'll happen is you end up having water in your basement, which means you're now gonna have mold remediation, potential structural repair, and a drainage correction project that involves tearing up the patio that you just built. I've seen this happen a lot with DIY patio pours more often than anything, or even contractor built jobs where they went with someone that wasn't as reputable, but they were way cheaper because it was just him and his buddy. Just keep that in mind. Anytime you're pouring a patio, you have to have that amount of slope on it. If you're hiring it out, put in the contract that that finished grade needs to have a slope of 1/4 inch of fall per foot away from the structure minimum, and hold them to it before you sign off the job. Put a level on that patio and make sure that it slopes away. This one is less dramatic the day that it's built, but it's gonna cost you later on. Homeowner builds a solid roof on top of an existing structure. Let's say it's on top of a patio where they've got ledges and they put it on top of that. They had a contractor out that just built it and they didn't want to hassle with the permit or making sure that everything was built up to spec. They go to sell the house, the buyer's home inspector comes through, flags the patio cover as unpermitted and probably even potentially built incorrectly. The buyer's lender then may require it to be permitted before closing. The municipality may require you to bring it up to code if it wasn't built correctly, which might need engineering drawings or might mean inspections or structural modifications. In the end, the buyer typically uses this as a negotiation lever to discount the sale price of the house when that was supposed to add to the total value of the house. The permit for a patio cover attached to your house is almost always required in most municipalities. I know of a few states that don't require it, but most municipalities, when you attach to the house, requires a permit. There are other languages as well, depending on where it is away from the house, that will also require it. For a freestanding structure, it's less common, but still sometimes requires one. Just keep in mind that you are protecting your investment. You need to research that first. Reach out to your local municipality, find out what you should or shouldn't do. If you're trying to attach it to a ledge, like a half wall, and you're attaching our posts on top of that, just keep in mind that that ledge needs to be reinforced and built to be able to handle the overturn of itself and of the structure attached to it, which typically would require some sort of site-specific engineering. All of that stuff needs to be figured out before you build the structure. We're happy to work with you. This is one of the great parts of the services we offer. If you need anything from us to help make your permit smoother, whether that's elevation drawings or that's the actual structural engineering that we give you, we offer site-specific engineering that's contracted out based on the hours that our engineer works. All that stuff can be provided to make sure you have as seamless a process and everything you need to get it installed correctly. This next one can actually be dangerous, which is why I want to talk about it. Fire pits are one of the most popular outdoor living features right now, and I get it. I have one underneath my patio cover. There's nothing better than sitting around a fire on a cool evening, but I see people do this often underneath a standard pergola or even underneath a patio cover. I've seen it occasionally under a retractable awning without thinking about clearance. Like, amount of heat coming off of a wood fire is pretty excessive. Over time, you may not notice it right away on like a wood pergola, but over time you'll notice scorching, discoloration, drying out of the wood directly above the fire. Dry wood plus rising embers is not the best combination when you have that structure over your head. I've seen people do it with retractable awnings where the fabric distorts and melts a little bit because that's just what fire and heat is going to do to it. When you get aluminum structures, you need to know that the aluminum itself has a powder coat that can handle it or has a paint finish that can handle that amount of heat. You do have to keep in mind the actual elevation from the fire to the actual structure itself. If you get something like our product, then you just have to hose it down and you aren't really gonna have any issues unless you build a big fire right underneath it. Then yeah, but you're not gonna be that close to it anyway. And not to mention, you have to deal with smoke. If you have a covered patio, you have to consider the fact that smoke needs to go somewhere, which is why a louvered system like ours is great. You can open it up and let the smoke through. But on a standard covered patio, you're not gonna wanna let that smoke just build underneath and kind of like feel all that stuff underneath. So all that's important to consider. If you want to build a fire, get a patio cover like a pergola out of aluminum that can handle it with a powder coat, or a louvered pergola where you can open it up and let that smoke through, and then just plan that you're going to need to clean it off after a little while. This last mistake is one that I see all the time, and it's one you wouldn't even consider because it seems small until you realize what it costs to fix. You pour your patio, you build your outdoor kitchen, you put your seating area in, everything looks great, and then you realize you wanted string lights overhead, or you wanted a ceiling fan in the pergola, or you wanted outlets next to the grill, or maybe landscape lighting around the perimeter. All that needs electrical. Maybe you want heating as well. Running conduit under a slab before you pour is pretty cheap, a few $100s per foot, depending on the electrician, to lay the conduit while the ground is open. Running electrical after the slab is poured means one of three things: trenching through finished hardscape, which destroys part of your patio and costs thousands to repair; running electrical exposed conduit on the surface, which looks terrible; or running everything from the house overhead, depending on what you have overhead, which still requires an electrician and can be very expensive. I've seen homeowners spend $2,000 to $3,000 just to get a single circuit to their outdoor kitchen island because they didn't plan for it before the concrete went down. That same circuit would have cost them like $300 to $400 if they'd built it in when they were doing the original pour. So like some of the other things that I've mentioned so far today, planning is your friend. You need to work through what you want the space to look like eventually, and then work backwards from that to make sure you have everything you need to try and make sure that that patio is ready for those eventual features. If you want one of our pergolas, let's say, but you want to do the outdoor kitchen first, then at least plan where the posts are going to be, have the foundation there. I would recommend pulling the permit. Even if you don't buy our product right away, you could reopen the permit later on, or even better, buy it from us and then you can have it installed. It's typically easier to have the patio cover, electrical, and concrete done and then fill in the outdoor kitchen, as long as the gas piping is ready and the electrical is ready for the outdoor kitchen, or to do it all at once. You just have to think through what you want first. Once you pour that concrete, you've buried your ability to do a lot of work underneath. If you want an eventual outdoor kitchen, you better plan for it right now and have that gas piped out away from the pavers or out away from the slab before you actually close everything up. Even if you just plug it with something or cover the hole or the pipe with like a chair for a period of time, that's better than not planning for it. It's better to have too many outlets than not enough. I went out to a house one day where they just had like 5 outlets built into the slab, ready to go. Just because they didn't know what they were going to do. And that's better than not having anything at all, because it made everything else easier. We had to plan around the circuits rather than trying to like trench them out of a slab, which is not gonna happen, or having those big fat, gray conduit pipes running all along the ground, which don't look good at all. So think through your electrical plan, think through your gas plan, think through water evacuation if you wanna have drains built into your slab. Do all that stuff up front. Spend a lot of time planning. That's why I recommend, if you want a patio in the summer, planning in the spring or even in the winter or even in the fall before is not too early. It gives you enough time to make sure you have everything down, you know who all your contractors are, you know who's doing what, who's responsible for what, who's communicating to who, and then you can build everything from there. That's what we see all the time. This is why people buy our stuff on Black Friday, and then they can plan everything out to where they install it in the spring of the year after, and it gives them everything that they want all up front. We're also happy to work with you. We can help design out your patio, tell you what you should consider: gas, electrical, slab, foundation, all that stuff. We're happy to help you work through. So if you're interested in reaching out to one of our design consultants, you can find us at theluxurypergola.com down below. You can leave us a comment in this video. We're happy to help you, and hopefully this has been informational. See you in the next one. Take care.